And I believe that God plants seeds way before things are actually supposed to happen. You know, so when it was time for me to do something, you know, for example, I moved my office, you know, last year. Well, the year before, I had gotten guidance that it was time to leave. Now, I wasn't ready to leave. I was still on lockdown saying, but I love it here. But I have to say, about 7 months later, I started to feel it. And I remembered that God had already started to plant the seed, and I already started to think about it. And so when I was finally ready and shifted, it took me 3 weeks to find the place, move out, and start seeing clients in the new place. And so that's how fast it happened. So I think sometimes when people get messages and guidance, they think it has to be instantaneous.
Right.
And then when it doesn't work out, they're like, oh, well, maybe I was wrong. But I feel like patience is a virtue for a reason. I think God puts these ideas and thoughts, God's source, creator, universe,
Right.
energy, imprints these ideas and his energy in us so that it can start preparing us. Because when we do these things, our life all around us is going to shift. You know, our family, our friends.
And people don't see that the steps are an important part of it. Like, you know, they say, oh, I got this inspiration, you know, to write this book, but, you know, I've only got 10 pages written. It's like, yeah, but that 10 pages is the important part of the step. You know, it's not about the getting to the finished product in a week. But every step that you take, you know, when you get an idea that you have to move, and then you sit at night saying, well, if I move, what kind of place would I move to? But I'm not ready to move yet. But you're creating the steps, and people aren't realizing that that's the process.
And I think people get overwhelmed
Yeah.
because the idea of moving, and what am I going to do all of my stuff? And where am I going to go? And what's the best place? And I think that stunts people's
Yeah,
growth. I think it stunts.
They just put too much weight on their shoulders. But like you said, like, all right, I'm thinking I'm going to move and stuff, and I'll start to downsize. And then you start doing these little projects or little things, and you're still where you are, but then you decide, all right, I just found a place, I'm ready to go. And you've already done the prep work, or a lot of the prep work.
But a lot of times people wait.
You
Well,
can't
I'll
wait.
wait for the house to come, or I'll wait for the money to come. And then what happens is it never comes because it takes the baby steps to get yourself.
Right. And then all of a sudden it just becomes a self-fulfilling, you know, and you flow through it, as opposed to, like you say, I'm going to write a book and you do 10 pages and you just stop and you're like, all right, that's it, and you throw it out.
So some of my mentors are like Tony Robbins, Oprah, Joel Osteen, Steve Harvey. If you think about their history, they really started from nothing. They started from being poor or difficult upbringing, and they have taken this energy and this upbringing or this history or this sadness or this pain that they've gone through, and they've transformed it into amazing things, right? And the beautiful thing is they just keep listening and they keep taking those steps. One thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and they'll all tell you it was hard to put themselves out there, right? They all received ridicule and persecution, but they've all remained true to their authentic selves, and I think that's why they're so magical. I think they're so beautiful is because regardless, they're still their authentic selves.
And they share one thing in common, is they all have service to others.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge thing.
Heart service, yeah.
And it's like, it can, you know, you can still have a $1 billion business for profit and stuff, but if your company is helping people with a certain thing in a product, and you treating your employees right and things like that, you're of service of other people, you're going to do well. I mean, that's just good basic business sense. But they've done it in many other ways.
I think we've come here to learn lessons. We've learned, like, to grow as a soul. We've come here to evolve. And what happens is, I think, once we start learning those lessons and those experiences, I think then we become teachers. And I think that's what's happened with those mentors, is they've taken their experiences and they've learned from them and they've mastered that, and now they teach others.
Right.
And again, it's like this ripple effect, and I think that's that part of being in service to others, is they teach people how to continue to evolve and grow, and I think that's the greatest gift that you can offer humanity.
Is to help others, you know, and if you learn through experiences the tough way of something, you can help others. I mean, that's just like compassion. That's just like the whole ball of wax. And I think everyone has that ability, even on a very small scale. It might just be helping a child how to read or draw, or spending time sitting with someone in a nursing home and listening to them. You know, you're of service, but you're doing some crazy good stuff.
It's funny because I look at it slightly differently, where I don't think that we come here to learn things. I think we just come here to experience.
Yes.
But I think through the experiences, we find experiences that we find joyful and ones that we don't. And we want to
I
share
agree.
the love and joy with people. So what happens is you step into becoming a teacher because you're trying to share the experiences that made you so happy, and try to help people avoid the ones that didn't. And what
Isn't it the same thing? Experiences and learning.
Lessons. I know. I've struggled with that.
But the difference is when people say we come here to learn lessons, that
It
means
sounds like punishment a little bit. It sounds like
Well,
you've got to
it sounds like you.
harsh.
I don't think we come here with a set purpose saying like God sent you here because you got to
have
learn
to-
this lesson. I think it's more of like God created you and the rest is you.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah.
rest is your soul and
I've
the
thought
journey.
about that too with lessons, and I feel, and as I said it, I'm like, but life is more experience,
Yeah.
and the experience allows you to grow, and you learn from it, right?
and it's
I
a-
think that old like lessons has been drilled in, but that's not necessarily the word. But I'm glad you brought
Yeah.
that up
And-
because
and
you're
that's,
right.
That's what I was just going to say is I think the word that you're using doesn't resonate with me, but we're talking about the same thing. And the way I say that is because I hear a lot, people say, we come here to learn lessons and we, through that we have to suffer, but it's like, no, we
No.
didn't come here for that. We came here to experience joy. But through that, we learn how we create joy and how we don't. And that's basically you're learning manifesting. You're learning to create.
And I have to say, I find that if we cannot think of good and bad, positive, negative, dark and light as a good thing or a bad thing, it's just an energy. And so I've kind of been sitting that, and I've realized that all the pain that I've gone through has just made me a better human being. And so I don't see it as bad or suffering, or I no longer see it as punishment, but I see it as an opportunity to grow. And that's why when the lessons comes up, I'm saying it, but it doesn't feel right? Because it's because of those experiences, it's kind of forced me to grow and seek more and challenge myself.
I think the experiences give you the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have these experiences, but they don't take the opportunity and learn something from them. And I think that's where the free will comes in. Okay, so you have this experience, and your free will is like, all right, I'm going to learn from this, or I'm not, or I'm going to repeat it, or whatever,
And then they create the same experience over and over again. And then-
Unconsciously.
unconsciously, and in doing so, they step out of the present moment and they really miss the joy of life and
In the moment.
the beauty of experiencing the creation of something new constantly.
Yeah, I mean, and it sounds so philosophical and stuff, and I'm just trying to think like, on practical points, when people have these tragedies in their lives or great suffering, like you said, some of the people you had mentioned grew up in poverty or, really in tough shape and stuff, and how they turned it around, in a practical sense. You have to have faith, and you have to have faith in the process, and the process is everything changes. Everything's ongoing. So literally your attitude can change in a second. We know your life can change in a second, for the better or for the worse, but your attitude can change. So that's one thing that we know is constant, is change.
And I believe the more you want, the more things need to shift and change. And that's that part of manifesting. When you put an energy out, it's a ripple effect and things have to adjust around it. But what happens is when people start to see the changes, and sometimes it's, well, wait a minute, I have to move this from this state. I have to, leave this relationship, or I have to change this job in order to achieve what I want. People get afraid, they're afraid of the change. And so it stunts them. And then what happens is they stay, and then it becomes more painful, right? And they go through that process again, but I'm not ready. And then it becomes more painful. So I believe that everybody's degree of, let's say, pain or struggle is different. And I always question, like, when is enough enough? When have I had enough? And it's enough to force myself to make change.
It's about self-love.
Mm-hmm.
And really,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the issues people have, the reason why people can't hear spirit and they can't hear the communication and they can't find a good relationship is they don't love themselves enough. Because think about it. I know there's so many people that talk about, like, oh, if I could just find a mate that, was good to me and took care of me. But the problem is if they don't believe it, when they find that person, what happens is, the person will say, you look so beautiful today. And something in part of them can't accept it. Will say, what's the reason behind this? Why are they saying this? I
Right.
don't feel beautiful. Are they lying to me? Are they just trying to get something? Not consciously,
Yeah.
but
And they're pushing it
subconsciously,
away.
they can't accept it. So they push that person away, and they create an experience that wouldn't be there normally.
Absolutely.
I had experienced this week that Spirit gave me this example, which, it's unbelievable that we're talking about it, and it's about self-love. And how, in this particular experience, how I felt bad for someone because of a certain circumstance, and I felt terrible, and just like, oh, this is horrible, and then Spirit said to me, that's the way we feel over here when you don't love yourself or don't treat yourself right. The way you feel your compassion towards this other person. And it really kind of struck me, and they're like, yeah, that's how we feel. And so like if you're grieving really bad or something and you're missing your loved one, they feel that on the other side, and they actually can feel your pain, and it hurts them because they want to see you to move forward and grow, and they understand the grief process, that it's going to take time and certain things, but every little step that you take in that growing and the healing and the change, your loved one just is ecstatic. And without Spirit showing me that example this past week, I really, I've heard it and explained to me through Spirit and stuff, but they actually made me feel it. And it's like, that pain you're feeling right now for that other person, that's what we feel for you when you're not loving yourself.
Wow.
And I was like, yeah, I was like, wow, I was like, that's crazy.
Like, I don't want that.
Yeah, I know. I was like, no, really? I'm like, oh, sorry, And then I'm like, well, I better treat myself a lot better because,
And I think this is why so many people chase the external. They chase the things, the material things, the people, the best of, because they've pulled themselves out of themselves, and it's validated them as human beings. It's validated them as, I'm important. And I have to say, I was in a long-term relationship that ended. It was very hard for me, but somehow I knew that I needed to take time off to rediscover myself and to figure out who I am.
Yep.
And that's a hard thing to do, because instantly, we as human beings need connection.
Yeah.
We need other people. And so to go into that isolation, let's say, to find myself was very lonely and very difficult. But I have to say, I believe that I've created a beautiful relationship with my boyfriend now because of that time that I took to learn and love myself, because it's exactly that. He'll tell me I'm beautiful. He'll tell me good things and positive things, and he'll say I love you, and I can receive that.
Yep.
And I laugh because I look back, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I never would have been ready for this relationship because, again, I didn't love myself, so I wouldn't have been able to receive it. So there was no way he could have come into my life, So, I say for those people who are looking for love, the hardest thing to do is to take a step back and work on yourself, but it's in that raises your vibration, and you're opening up the energy to create in. And it wasn't even just a beautiful relationship with a significant other, it was friendships and people that I'm working with
Co-workers,
in my job, and even my family dynamic has changed because I feel like I'm a better person for myself, and I think that's a key. It's one of the hardest things to do, but it's such a blessing. You can relate?
Yeah. When I ended a long relationship, and I actually took 3 years off without dating, and just kind of right away I knew, I was like, all right, I gotta find my happiness first, and then once I find my happiness, then I can bring someone in to share it. And it took a while, but it's interesting because as I was going through that process, I noticed that I was meeting people that were closer and closer to what I really wanted, and this was right after I started the church with Sue and Ernie and Judy that I met my now wife, and we have a baby together, and but I couldn't have done it, like you said, if I didn't take that time to really discover myself. And I used to be really shy, and I used to be really afraid of showing my authentic self, and now I'm at the point where it's like, if you like me, that's great. If you don't like who I am, that's okay too. And I stepped into my power. And
And don't you notice that the people in your life now love you regardless?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's like for me, I feel like it's an unconditional love.
Yeah.
Like I've grown up with conditional love most of my life. Well, oh, if you're not going to do this, or you're going to be this person, or you're not going to do what I want, then I'm going to pull my love away, or I'm going to pull my friendship away. And now I feel like by knowing myself and loving myself, I've surrounded myself with people that I can be authentic with. I can make mistakes, and I can laugh, and I can be mean, and they'll still love me, and that's that part of this beauty of going within and figuring out who are you.
Yeah, that's cool because, like I said before, I have a lot of friends who are atheists, and it hasn't changed my friendship with them. So it's one of those things where people like get so afraid, like, oh, if I become this person that I want to be, am I going to lose these other people? And it's like, if they're worth keeping around,
they'll be there.
they'll be there.
And that's the gift, right? You realize
Absolutely.
on the other side, gosh, I put up all these walls and these blocks and these challenges, but then when you finally move through it, it's that aha moment.
It is.
Like all that energy,
Very freeing.
all that worry, all that fear.
It's funny, I get teary about it because, I when I channel or when I connect with these things, it's like I feel that love, and it's like, after so many
It's
years,
pure.
yeah, and when you don't allow it in for so many years, and most people don't, like when you feel it, it's just like, I can't help but cry. It's just so beautiful, and it just feels so light and amazing, and
And I think you're a great teacher for the men, the masculine energy, right? Because that energy's been taught to be insensitive, to hold your feelings in, right? And that's not being authentic, right? We have emotions, we have feelings, we're human, right? And so it's such a gift for you to be able to share that.
how silly is it? Like, you're less of a man because there's water coming out your eye? Like, really? Like, if that's your judgment on who a person is, then you've got your own issues to work out. It's not about the person with water
yeah.
coming out their eye.
Right. You're
You
telling
know?
me like no men never cried at their mother's funeral, that we're warriors or things like that. But being mediums, we're lucky because sometimes when we're giving readings, we can feel that intense love come through. And sometimes it's so powerful, it literally will overwhelm you. The purity of it,
Absolutely.
and when you talk about unconditional love, when we see it right from the source, it's like,
Powerful.
really, it's like super spring water. You know what I mean? It's
I have to
not,
say, I was
it's
never a crier.
unfiltered, and
Yeah.
it's like it just comes right through. And it's amazing because you look at love when we have on this plane, and we attach so much crap to it. It's like it's like the water analogy. It's like going through an old pipe, and by the time it comes out, it's picked up all this junk from inside this old pipe, as opposed to coming like directly from the spring, and it just tastes so much better. I mean, we got to clean up our act as humans and stuff when it comes to love. I mean, everyone knows what love is, but real love is like the ultimate.
It's amazing.
And we just, most of the time we just kind of like we abuse it. It's not pure. It's
Well, it's not love.
I think a lot of people, because of the society, don't even know how to love.
Right.
And I have to say, I was raised by a single mother. I didn't have that father figure in my life. So when I got into a relationship, I didn't even know what a healthy relationship was. So I have to say my previous relationship was, I call it my lessons learned love. I've learned so much from it. And it's such a gift that I had that experience, because I could be a better person now. I could be a better girlfriend, maybe wife, from these experiences
a
that
hint?
I've learned. Hint, hint.
Does he watch the show?
Yes, he does.
I can edit that out if you need to.
No, not being edited.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is like now I feel like I could be a wife
Yep.
and be this beautiful person that I know I'm supposed to be, and can complement this beautiful person that's come into my life.
Absolutely.
And I think I resisted that for a long time because I didn't value it. Now I think we both value that sanctity of this connection and this growth that we can have, and I can truly honor the energy of wife, and he can honor the energy of husband, and we can learn and grow together. But I think, like I said, a lot of people are missing what true love is. And I think that's why people like us are now stepping into these roles to teach people that, hey, you know, we're not perfect, and we're going to be snappy and a little prickly, and we're going to like love wholeheartedly, and we're going to cry, and we're going to want to
Judge ourselves.
yeah, and we're going to want to have these brilliant ideas and do these amazing things and grow. And I think the people that are in our lives have now accepted that and love us even more for it.
And I think with loving other people or yourself is realizing that love has no expectations.
Right.
So
It's
you
like
know,
loving a baby. You know, the baby doesn't have any expectations. It's just, but your love for that baby is pure. You know, and then when the kid gets older and he's a teenager, you're probably like, you know, I don't love you that much.
go get a job.
Right? Yeah. Get a job, you bum. So, but you know, it's if you can love yourself like you would love that baby, then it'll take the edge off, and I think the love that you share with adults after that can be a little bit more pure.
But
even if you're alone, then you know you have that love of yourself.
and that's the thing, you can't love wholeheartedly like that if you don't love yourself.
You can't. And if you can't remove those expectations of yourself, and it's not, expectations isn't, you know, setting goals and trying to achieve more. It's more about, I have to get it right every time. I have to get it perfect every time. Because the people who get it right got it wrong a lot, you know, and they learned from that and they grew from that. But we expect ourselves to be able to get everything perfect all the time.
That's a big one that comes through. There's like, you know, give yourself a break. I get that all the time. I get that from readings, from other people that read me. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, I hear it. I hear you.
Sure.
But it's a common thing that comes through. It's like they want us to give ourselves a break.
All right, everybody, thanks for watching the show. We hope you got something out of it. Remember, don't just take our word for it. Explore the ideas for yourself. Really see how they apply to your life. That's how you're going to get something out of it.
And if you have any questions you want us to answer on the show, just send them into our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, and we'll try to get that information for you.
And remember, always consider the source.